Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and we all connect with money in our own unique way. And as we start becoming global citizens of the world, then currency starts playing its own role in terms of the conversion rate. That becomes very, very relevant once we come to America. We count everything in how many rupees this much dollar is, but then gradually that recedes, and yet our sustained interest in Indian economy keeps us paying considerate attention on budget of India, which was presented recently by Finance Minister, has some new offerings, and especially at this stage when we hear about slowdown of economy all over the world, how is India doing? And to learn more about budget provisions and its relevance for NRIs, we are honored, and it is my distinct pleasure to welcome someone who can officially share the mindset of Government of India, being Consul Trade with Consulate General of India. Devi Prasad Misra ji joins me today.
Namaskar.
Swagat.
Good evening, Ashok ji. Always a pleasure being here.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sure, like some people who are interested in a particular sport, when that match is happening, they are glued to the screen. And those who are into economics, and someone like you must have paid very sincere attention to what are the provisions. And so, and as you are a student of economy, as well as of course you are serving Indian American community here as well as India, was there something at the back of your mind that this time these budget provisions would help Indian economy?
In every budget there is an anticipation that there will be something interesting that will come up. In many cases, the budget is actually a response to the contemporary economic situation. What are the things that the budget can do? So in that sense, there is always an anticipation of what new and what else the budget is going to present. Do keep in mind that the budget is not just a statement of accounts, but it is also a statement of priorities and policies for the government and what the government proposes to do over the next year. So in this year's budget, if you see, there are a few very distinct themes. One theme is what is happening with agriculture. So what is the focus on for agriculture? The other is what is the focus on infrastructure. Then there is a very distinct, clear-cut focus on employment generating sectors such as tourism. So those are some of the areas which we were looking forward to, that as to what steps will be taken, and we see that some very specific and concrete steps have indeed been taken.
And Devi Prasad ji, if I may also add, as a layman, one is also looking at how government priorities are sitting towards education or towards defense. So in these two areas, is there something specific that you can think of?
In both those areas, you see, as far as defense is concerned, we have over the last few years, our defense acquisitions have increased, particularly from the US. I can say that acquisitions of various items of defense equipment has increased. Also, on the education side, there has been the opening of new educational institutions across the country. So there is a very focused, very clear attention of the government on both these areas.
Now, talking about government's priorities based on the statistics or the data that tells you, how do you rate what are the main areas which government is considering as its priority?
I'm actually, incidentally, today itself, the figures of GDP growth have come, and it seems that the trough that we're going through has broadly sort of evened out, has bottomed out rather. And the areas where we see growth and the areas where there is going to be focus is one is agriculture. There is a lot of focus on the blue economy as well as the milk processing industry, because India is a large producer of milk, and the problem with milk is that it needs to be processed for maximum value addition. It needs to be processed. So the problem with milk is that it is not easily transportable. So there is focus on processing of milk so that there is value addition. There is focus on the blue economy, which is the economy related to fisheries. Then there is a very clear-cut focus on infrastructure. The budget lays out about $1.5 trillion US expenditure over the next 5 years on new airports, on new highways. There has been a very clear-cut focus on data parks, making infrastructure for storage of data. Then there is a focus on social welfare as well. So there is a enhanced outlay for the PMJAY program. There is FDI in the education sector, which is being very seriously looked at. So those are some of the areas where the government has actually, the budget has very concrete giveaways on those areas.
And this is very exciting actually, data park, and then I think there was reference of artificial intelligence also.
Yes, yes.
And at the same time, I heard the word aspiration being used frequently in the context of the budget. So when you have aspiration and economy going together, looks like there is a clear-cut philosophical, or what should I say, the outlook which has the potential of empowering people with inspiration of innovative ideas, so to say. And India being full of youth, so these things I think matter. But do you see them reaching to the right recipients in terms of the message?
Well, I would take from your question, and I would say that just as there is inspiration, there is aspiration as well. So, and data is a great enabler. There have been a lot of people who have said data is the new oil, for example. India is the world's largest consumer of data. Now, this data, when huge amounts of data, in India, data is very affordable as well. So this accessibility of data and accessibility to smartphones and to other computing devices has a huge impact on the economy. What that does is it helps, for example, farmers, they are able to predict the output, the money that they will get for their output. They are able to detect that, predict that much better. They're able to see what time to sow, what is going to be the weather going forward. Already we have many startups which are providing education totally on a mobile platform. This is all data which is being consumed primarily by the youth. And again, this is with a lot of aspiration. Now, you mentioned artificial intelligence. And the future, the empires of the future will be the empires of the mind, someone said, and which is very true. We are already seeing those things around us. Things which probably 10 years back would have belonged to a science fiction book are already seen in our pocket. Yes, absolutely, it is in our pocket. And the amount of things that you can do on a smartphone today is astonishing. We have robots are all around us. Earlier, robots were something which you could perhaps see in a museum, but today you look at your homes and you will have probably a robot vacuum cleaner, you will have some other robotic devices around you. We have talk-based computing, or like Alexa and like other computing devices. So a lot is happening in this sphere. We are also, of course, being a large economy and being a large country, we are generating a huge amount of data as well. So there has to be some thought in terms of what are we going to do with that data? How are we going to keep that data safe? How are we going to make the best use of that data? And it is in this context that the government has focused on introduction of data parks, introduction of quantum computing technologies, support to artificial intelligence technologies, and so on and so forth.
So, not restricting to budget provision, and we'll come back to it, but generally thinking, when this revolution of technology started happening and there were questions about many people losing their jobs because machines would take over. So in terms of the growth of data-oriented structure to move forward in economy, how do you see this affecting the rate of employment?
Well, I can understand the concerns that have been, that have been put out, that what will happen to a lot of jobs. But do keep in mind that it is a evolutionary process. When you and I would have been a lot younger, you would have remembered that lifts had liftmen, people who used to operate lifts, right?
Yes.
Today, if you tell someone that there used to be a person who used to press buttons on a lift, someone will laugh and someone will say, how is that even possible? Was that a real job? But there was a job like that. And as technology moved ahead, those people got repurposed. There is a huge amount of repurposing of labor that is happening. Many of the old, for example, in the telecom sector, many people who used to operate with lines and linesmen, they are now being repurposed to operate on a database platform. So that is, in any case, is happening. It is, of course, I agree with you that there will be a change, there will be a reorientation of labor. Many items which do not require that kind of labor, or many things which can be automated, they will get automated. This does create unique challenges. It creates challenges of access to the tools required to repurpose and reorient. It creates challenges of how to access education better, education that is required, or how do you acquire the skills required to repurpose oneself better. So those are challenges, and those challenges will need to be kept in mind. But I don't foresee a future where there are large scale unemployment only because there is technology. And also keep in mind that once technology comes in, it actually enhances efficiencies. So that increase in efficiency actually leads to a higher quality of life. It leads to a lower cost of living. So that helps everybody.
Yeah. And when you talk about federal-state relationship, so there are certain states which offer freebies. For example, in Delhi now, women can travel in bus without paying ticket. And then you read news stories which says that this 1,000 crore rupees would be the loss, etc. So, and there would be other freebies. So, will it reflect on the overall national economy? It definitely would, because the state is a part of nation. So how state and national economy work in coordination?
So the answer to that is that the state as well as the union, they have their own taxing powers, they have their own revenue streams. So out of their revenue streams, they decide on what are their priorities and how best to attain those priorities and how best to spend that amount of money. Now what happens is that there is a mechanism of the Finance Commission. The Finance Commission decides that what should be the devolution of resources to various states. So that is the broad structure. As far as any specific policy intervention is concerned, it will have a number of fallout effects. So if some freebie is given, there is some economic benefit that will accrue to it, there is some cost that will go into it. That needs to be seen in its totality. So by doing this, what are the benefits that are accruing and what are the costs we are paying? So once we do that analysis, we get a little clearer picture of what is the real benefit or the real impact of any measure.
So now coming back to the national budget and the main provisions, and we have been hearing about the goal of 5 trillion economy. Now, do you see any development oriented, growth oriented programs or provisions which would help in moving towards that goal?
Absolutely. So when we look at the budget provisions, particularly the focus on infrastructure, the focus on creating 100 plus new airports, creating 10,000 fresh kilometers of highway, such infrastructure projects have a huge multiplier effect. Not only do they provide employment to the people building those ports, airports, highways, they also have a multiplier effect on the economy. So the connectivities increase. So it becomes that much easier for say a factory manufacturing something in Kanpur to actually reach all the way to the port, and so that they can export their produce, whatever they're manufacturing. So this focus on infrastructure in particular has a huge multiplier effect, and I feel that going forward this focus is going to give us rich dividends.
And let us talk a little bit about very important aspect, whether you are here or anywhere. Paying tax is something which is important, and I should not say it, but many people feel that if there was a way that I will have to pay less, that would make me happy. So government also takes this psychology in account, and they give some provisions where people feel good that I'm comfortable, either because there is a clarity that how much I have to pay, or there are ways in which I can save my tax. So there is a announcement of some taxpayer charter. What is that?
See, this budget announced a taxpayers charter. The idea behind a taxpayers charter is that a taxpayer is a partner. The taxpayer would be the taxpayer has some expectations from the tax administration. So the expectations would be codified, and the taxpayer would have some idea in terms of what are the things that the taxpayer can expect from the tax administration. Already, this is other than the taxpayer charter. In India, any notice which is issued or any communication that is issued by the taxpayer by the tax department comes with a specific code. That code, the taxpayer can go and check. There is a website where you can type in that code and you can check, is this a genuine communication? Who is it originating from? Who is it intending to? Now, something like this was not there a few years back. And this is a huge step towards transparency, because now the taxpayer is empowered to check that whether the document that I'm being receiving, whether it is a genuine document, it is intended for me or not. Also, it creates an internal audit trail within the government. So the government can also, or the tax administration can also now keep a tab in terms of what communication is being issued, how it is being issued, to whom is it being issued, in what periodicity is it being issued. So these are steps which lead to they increase trust. Second, they help codify some some conduct for the tax administration. Also, the taxpayer can now, he has an idea of what to expect. So in totality, I would say this is a very, very positive step.
So talking about another dimension related to tax, if you are NRI and you have some investment or some money that you are making in India, earlier there was lack of communication between two countries as far as people's income is concerned. I think now with digital technology as well as different approach, things have changed. So from the point of view of Indian American community members, how the new tax situation would affect them?
Okay, so the budget has some provisions which seek to redefine the number of days that you stay abroad to qualify to be called as an NRI. There was some concern in terms of what gets chargeable to, particularly for NRIs, what income gets chargeable to taxes in India. There has been a clarification which was issued right the next day after the budget day, where it is very clearly mentioned that the intention of the government is to tax whatever is the income accruing in India. So if there is any income accruing out of India, outside India, that is not sought to be taxable. So that is there should be no confusion in.
So now let me ask you this question, which means the money that you are making in India, it would also be coming under the tax brackets that they are having. So this time they have increased that slab.
So what has happened this time is that the tax system in India provided a number of exemptions. So if you spend your money in a particular way, if you make a particular kind of investment, you are eligible for a certain amount of exemption. These exemptions create some complications. They also make an audit a little more complicated. So in order to simplify the system, this budget proposes that we will lower the rate provided none of the exemptions are availed. So it becomes a much simpler system. You do not avail any exemption, you don't have to file, of course, additional documentation, so on and so forth, and you get the benefit of a lower rate of tax. So your net incidence actually comes down.
And in this reference, was it 5 lakh rupees, that is now 7.5 lakh, something like that? Do you
The exact figures are available in the budget, and I mean, there's no point in repeating those figures right now. I would recommend that the viewers actually refer to the budget, and they'll get a very clear picture. They can get in touch with the consulate as well. We would be happy to assist them with anything that any queries they have.
Absolutely. And as we move towards concluding moments of our time with you, some websites which you feel are relevant for people to have access to exact information, either from Government of India or through Consul office?
The best website to reach out to is actually India in New York .gov. So please do refer to that website. We, on our consulate in India, India New York website, we have links to all tax departments, both on the direct tax side as well as the indirect tax side. We also have links to other relevant websites. Also, if anyone has any query, please feel free to access Pramit, which is an online tool which is available, where the person who if there are any queries, they can enter the query right there in Pramit, and we respond to it as soon as we can.
And currently Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also been a champion of encouraging people to bring 5 foreign guests to India. So that was his way of encouraging tourism in India. So now I want to request you to tell us if there are some entrepreneurs who are thinking about doing some business in India, what would you say are the main attractive features of India at the moment? And also, if some entrepreneurs who are new to the system, they find some difficulties, is your office there to help them?
Okay, I'll take your second question first. Our office is always there to assist. We have been in here for a long time, and we'll be here forever. So we, by the virtue of being here, we help make those marriages happen between supply and between demand, between an investor and between a relevant industry and where to invest. We have also done a lot of work on in terms of business dispute resolution. Also facilitating investment. If someone wants to invest and would like to understand what is the process, how to go about it, who to speak to, what resources to access, our offices are always open. All our contact details are again available on our website. Please feel free to reach out to those websites. Your first question, it was in terms of what are the steps that the government is taking to enhance. Now, first of all, India has been the world's fastest growing large economy for a long time. India has a large chunk of employable capital, people who are at an age where they can, at a productive age. So now that has, so this labor force is productive, this labor force is well educated. India internally is a large market. So it is not just that items which are manufactured there are intended, or services are intended outside, but internally there exists a huge demand. So these are some of the areas these are some of the reasons why India becomes a favorite investment destination.
Wonderful. And there are many areas which are exciting at the moment, with the visit of President of United States of America and mega event at a new stadium in Ahmedabad. Both countries are working more closely on various areas of growth. So we'll probably have more conversations in this series about how US-India economy are complementing each other in some way. But I appreciate your presence to us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thanking Consul Trade, Consulate General of India, Devi Prasad Misra ji, for joining us and sharing all about budget, and thanking all of you for being with us. This is Ashok Vyas.